So we need to review some Algebra 1 stuff today before we can go on. If I give you 2 points, can you write the equation of a line? If I give you 2 points, guys, if I give you 2 points, can you write the equation of a line?
Physically, yes.
No.
It's not for me.
Okay.
Can you, like, subtract? Like, y equals
There's 2 ways that we're going to talk about today for sure. Okay? Here's one way. Anybody ever seen that equation before?
Yes.
Do you know what it's called?
Slope, or not?
No.
No, never mind.
It's...
Well, it looks like in order to do this, you need a point and a slope. So some genius called it point-slope form. They were feeling very creative that day. Okay? What about this one? You ever seen that before?
Yes.
What's it called? It's called slope-intercept form. Okay? Either one that you use, you have to know M, which is the slope. Why does M stand for slope? Nobody knows and nobody cares. We just know that M stands for slope. Okay? How do we find slope if we're given 2 points? Do you have the slope formula memorized? Guess what? Neither do I. I know that slope is the change in the y's divided by the change in the x's. More specifically than just change, it is the difference in the y's divided by the difference of the x's. Okay, have you ever seen this triangle used this way before?
Yes.
The triangle used in this particular way is a delta. It's a Greek letter, delta. Okay, and it means change. You might see it this way in math. You'll definitely see it in science. Okay, in science classes they use it a lot for change, to represent change. Okay, so if we're finding our difference in our y's, which one do we start with? Does it matter? Does it matter? No. So I'm going to put a star by the one I'm going to start with. That'll help me remember, right? So I start with my y's. 4 minus negative 3. Finding the difference of my y's. So 4 minus negative 3. 7. 2 minus 7. Wait, if I start here with my y's, don't I have to start here with my x's? So that's why I said 2 minus 7. What is that? Negative 5. So what's my slope? Most of the time we're going to write it like that, aren't we? Negative 7/5. Is it wrong if I write it like this? Absolutely not. Okay? So I have to be very honest with you. I made my slope a fraction on purpose. I made it so it wouldn't simplify to a nice whole number on purpose. Why? Because you guys hate fractions. And as soon as you see a fraction, you skip the problem. And you'll fail every time. And I don't want you to fail. Okay? So we got to get used to some fractions. Okay? So let's write the equation of the line using point-slope form first. I need to know how comfortable you are with this form. Okay? If we're using point-slope form, what goes here? Y. If we're using point-slope form, what goes here? One of these y's. Which one do you want to use? Does it matter? No. But whichever one I use, I got to stick with that one. So since I have already a star by this one, I'm going to go ahead and use that one. Are you okay with that? So y minus 4 equals m. Negative 7 over 5. X what? minus, can I just use the 7? I like the 7. It's my favorite number. Not really, it's really 13, but we're going to pretend. Why can't I use the 7? I use the 4, so I've got to use the 2. Okay so far? What do I do now? Well, honestly, it depends on your directions. If your directions are find the equation of a line, you're done. This is a perfectly acceptable equation of a line. It's just in point-slope form. When we do transformations of lines, we usually talk about them in point-slope form because it gives us good information. Okay? You can look at this right now and tell what the slope is and tell a point that it passes through, 2, 4. Okay? Is it the most simplified form of the equation of a line? No, right? So let's go ahead and simplify it so we know how to do that. All right? So we have y minus 4 equals, distribute here and here, so negative 7/5 x plus what? Guys, you've got to know how to multiply fractions. Negative 7/5 times negative 2 over 1. How do you multiply fractions?
5 times negative 2 and 7 times.
We multiply straight across and straight across.
I'm out of here.
Okay? Guys, you're trying to do cross multiplication, and the only time you ever do that is when two fractions are set equal to each other. Okay? These are not two fractions set equal to each other. These are two fractions being multiplied. When two fractions are multiplied, we just do what it says, and we just multiply. Okay? Any questions about that? Anyone? I just took the negative 7/5 and I'm distributing it to the negative 2. So I wrote down 7 over 5 and 2 over 1. I just gave myself two fractions to work with.
Okay, can we slow down for a second?
Yes, ma'am, I sure will.
This is just all too much.
It's fine.
Move the paper up so I can get that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Is that good?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me.
And then I need to...
Can I go and write this right here?
Yes, ma'am.
When I'm trying to find the equation of a line, what am I solving for? Say it out loud.
Slope.
Nope. I already found my slope. What am I solving for?
Y.
Y. I'm solving for y, right? Do I have the y by itself? Almost, don't I? I almost have it by itself. Add 4. In order to add fractions, what do you have to have? You have to have two fractions. Okay, that's a good start. 14 over 5 plus 4 over 1. What's required of me if I'm trying to add two fractions? Common denominator. What's a common denominator between 5 and 1? 5. How do I get this to be a 5? Multiply by 5, so I have to multiply that by 5. So I end up with 14 over 5 plus 20 over 5. This is just side work. This is not something you have to have written down unless you just want to. That's fine. So now what do we do? What do we add? It says add right there.
Oh,
Add.
Not the denominators.
Not the denominators, right? I keep the denominator what it was. So what do I end up with?
34 over 5.
34 over 5. Y equals negative 7 over 5x plus 34 over 5.
And that's the simplest form?
That is the simplest form that I can get it to. Okay? If we're talking about slope-intercept form. Yes. How comfortable are you with point slope form? Which is what we just did, point slope form. I see some nods. I hear some people say good. Uh-oh, I see some shaking of heads. Okay.
He even asked me how to like tell you.
Okay. So, do you think it would be okay to go ahead and show you if we use slope-intercept form instead? Okay. So, if I had these 2 points and I want to find the equation of the line using slope-intercept, guess what I need to know? My slope. Guess what I already found? It's the slope, right? So I can just use that here. I would have to find it. If it was 2 different sets of points, I'd have to find it. But if I remember that it's change in y over change in x, so find the difference of the y's over the difference of the x, I'm okay, right? So what goes here when we're doing slope-intercept form? One of the y's. So I'm going to choose a 4. Could I choose the -3? Yes. Why did I choose 4? Yeah, because. Right? Because. That was the reason. Equals, what's the m? -7/5. What's the x? Well, yeah, if I use the 4, then I got to use the 2, don't I? Plus b. Wait, what's b? That's what we're trying to find, isn't it? Okay. So 4 equals, how do I multiply fractions again? If they're both fractions, I can multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. So I get -14/5 plus b. What am I trying to solve for again? B. I have to have it by itself. So in order to get b by itself, I need to get rid of this. Add it to both sides. Add 14/5 to both sides of the equal sign. In order to add fractions, what do I have to have? Common denominator. Do I have to do this mess that I did down here if I can think of it in my head? Okay, so I can think of it, has to have a common denominator of 5. Well, what divided by 5 is 4? 20. Can't I say 20/5? Isn't that 4? Yeah. So what's 20/5 plus 14/5? Oh my gosh, that seems so familiar. Is that my answer? Am I done? What were the instructions? Write the equation of the line. Is my equation b equals 34/5? No. We have to go back up here, right? Go back up to slope-intercept form. This time, I leave the y and the x alone, and I put in what? The slope and the intercept, which is why it's called slope-intercept form. I mean, probably not, but whatever. So -7/5x plus 34/5. Oh my gosh, it's exactly the same thing I got right here. It's almost like it was meant to be that way. Yeah, I know. I was just joking about that. Okay. Are we good? How do you feel about this? How confident do you feel about this? Perfect. Amazing.
So we can use either way.
You can use either way, yeah? The only time you can't use either way is if it says, write the equation of the line using point-slope form. And then it wants you to use point-slope form. Or write the equation of the line using slope-intercept form. I don't like to do that because some people prefer one way over the other, and they're good at their way they prefer. Sometimes, though, I need to make sure you can use one form over the other. Okay? I don't think in the homework it requires one way or the other. Okay? Are we doing okay with this so far? Okay. Okay, on your homework, another thing that you're going to have to do is interpret the slope. Okay? What does interpret mean? What does an interpreter do as their job? What is an interpreter? Translator, right? An interpreter is a translator. They take something they know and explain it to somebody else, maybe in their language, right? Okay? So that's what I'm asking you guys to do. I'm asking you to interpret the slope. I'm asking you to read it in math and explain it in English. So this is just a really rough sketch, so forgive me, please. But I think you get the idea, yes? They don't need them, because they're just a classroom set. Okay, so let's pretend this is time. And we're going to talk about time in hours. And let's pretend this is money, which is measured in dollars because we're in the United States. I would like you to interpret this slope. First of all, you kind of need to know what the slope is, right? Well, if we have a graph, isn't it easier to go rise over run? Rise over run, rise over run. Well, each time I rise 10, I run 1. Rise 10, run 1. Rise 10, run 1. So what's my slope? 10, right? 10 over 1, 10. So interpreting the slope means I look at this and think, well, first of all, as time is increasing, as time is passing, what's happening with the money? It's increasing, isn't it? Okay? So the whole line overall is increasing, right? But I can get way more specific than that. I can say as each hour passes, maybe Franklin earns $10 more mowing grass. That would really depend on what the title of the graph was up here, right? Give me more information. But if I don't have that information, I can say as each hour passes, the money increases by $10. Does that make sense? Guys, on problems number 3 through 8 in your homework, that's what I want you to do. I want you to interpret the graph. You have to find the equation of the graph, and you have to interpret the slope. Okay? So in this case, well, just writing the equation just by looking at the graph, we already said that the slope was 10, right? We counted that. What's the y-intercept? 0. So b would be 0. So the equation of the line is y equals 10x plus 0, or just y equals 10x, right? Yes? Okay? So there's my equation of my line, and then interpreting the slope, I would write, as each hour passes, the money increases by $10. Is that clear? 11 and 12 in your homework has to do with error, finding the error. Remember those like we've done the last couple of times? It gives you a problem and gives you some work, and you have to find the error. Okay? 14 through 16 is what we've got to talk about now. Okay? 14 through 16 talks about linear regression. That seems really hard, right? That sounds like it would be really hard to do. It's not. It's not. Let's go ahead and get the calculators real quick. So if you'll just tell everybody what their numbers are, they can just go get them real fast. And would you just grab me one? Grab me one from the end.
Tabitha 43, Sarah 44, Kenzie 45, Nick 46, Callie 47, and Steve 48.
Just gonna grab me 50. Yeah. Oh. Cole, I don't mind if you use that one. It's different than the ones we're using. So my directions are going to be different from yours, from what you can do. It's up to you. You have one. You have a number that's checked out to you that you can use. Okay. Okay. The first thing I need you to do is turn the calculator on. Does everyone know how to turn the calculator on? If you don't, please get out of this class.